How's it going, folks? Stephen Mullen here, doing another best ball draft for you. As you all know by now, I'm a best ball specific blogger for Big Dogs Fantasy. I do mostly best ball. Did get into a little Dynasty League action this year with some of the folks over at Big Dogs. And we got a new article out, Best Ball Wide Receiver Breakdown, taking a look at the wide receiver position tiered rankings, some explanations at the end of each tier, and all that stuff. Next week will be the tight ends, and that'll be the end of the positions. It's kind of the thing people have asked me for the most, was some best ball specific rankings, so I figured I would finish all those up for you before the main drafting season starts. And we'll get back into some more strategy articles after that. So, Big Dogs Fantasy site has their draft guide available now for purchase. And it has all kinds of great information for you. It's got write-ups from Nick and Noah on all the college players that have just entered the NFL. It's got breakdowns of all the different players. It's got injury news, write-ups from Dr. Jesse Morse, who's a real doctor, checks out all the injuries and writes up how concerned you should be about each one. There's different ratings and whatnot for each injury, so I would recommend you check out the draft guide and purchase that. Kelsey at the 1-4, kind of who I was expecting to get at the 1-9. Interesting. What else we got going on? So we got the draft guide. Oh, also, if you have not done any of these drafts yet on Draft and you're watching this and you want to do one, sign up with promo code BDGE for Big Dogs Gotta Eat. That's promo code BDGE, and Draft will give you $3 for free so that you can try out, 3 of these $1 drafts or one $3 draft. This is a $3 draft I'm doing here. And as you know, I always draft 6 running backs and 7 wide receivers, as it gives you a huge boost in your winning percentage to do so. I don't really stray from that at all anymore. I used to a little bit here and there, but, I played online poker for a long time, and what you find out playing online poker is you can't beat math. Math will defeat you over time. So, Davante Adams will be picked here, and then I'm going to go with Odell Beckham over Le'Veon Bell because I have low ownership on Odell Beckham. Ooh. Since Davante Adams did actually fall to the 1-9, let's see what we're going to take instead. So, I slightly prefer, not slightly, I prefer to go wide receiver running back when it makes sense in these drafts. Gives you way more options, and you can pick up your value without having to worry about positions and all that stuff. So we will be looking to do that, but if the value falls to us at wide receiver and not at running back, then we'll take it at wide receiver. So this is my first Dynasty draft that I'm doing with some of the Big Dogs fellows, and it's super flex and tight end premium, so tight ends get a full PPR point, and running backs and wide receivers only get a half PPR point. Being super flex, you need to make sure you have 2 or 3 or 4 quarterbacks on your roster that are actually usable. Most of the backups you don't really want to be sticking in there if the starter get hurt, so you're kind of in trouble. There are a few exceptions to that, obviously. Looking at the board, pretty interested in Nick Chubb. Julio falls to us, we're taking Julio. Juju falls to us, we're taking Nick Chubb instead. So we're either taking Julio or Nick Chubb here. I like Chubb over Mixon for this season. If it was like career, I actually had this choice in Dynasty, and I took Mixon over Chubb. This guy's going to time out, so he's taking Julio, so we're going to take Chubb. We're going to let Juju and Mixon go. And we will have started with Davante Adams and Chubb. I like that quite a bit. So, as far as Zeke goes, I'm still taking him at the 1-4 for now. Once my ownership level gets up above 8%, then I'm going to have to kind of decide what I want to do. So, up until 8%, I'm not very concerned about my Zeke ownership because at 8%, you only own him as much as the average person does. Right now, I have 7%, so I can probably afford to take him the next 2 times that I have that choice of him at 4. Then I have to start kind of deciding how I feel about the situation. So if you're below 8% and somebody is falling to you at value, but their situation is super sketchy, it's actually where you want to buy them because you're getting them at a discount, right? And if all you do is you buy up to 8%, then you can't actually be hurt because at worst you only own them what the average is. If it's a situation where you think it's bad, like going to go bad for sure, then you want to, be lower than 8%, obviously, because you don't want 8% of the situation you think is almost always going to go bad. Like for me, for example, Todd Gurley. Some of that, you may not feel that way. But for me, Todd Gurley is one where it's like, I think that situation is bad enough that I do not want 8%. Melvin Gordon currently is a situation that I think is pretty bad. So I'm only buying him once in a great while. And trying to think of other weird situations. So Zeke, yeah, right now I'm down with him until I hit 8%. Once I hit 8%, I honestly don't know. I think I would still buy him for a bit, but if I hit 10%, then I'm certainly stopping buying him. I just don't see how they can afford to let his holdout go very long. But, anything can happen. This is the NFL, as we've seen. It's actually my pick in our Dynasty League, but I'll do that after this video is done recording. So we've started off Adams and Chubb. We want to keep in mind that we would love to get Aaron Rodgers. However, he is often available in round 7, so we don't need to try to reach for him. If there's nobody we really like in round 6 on the board, if we're looking at the board and we're like, yeah, then I might take Aaron Rodgers in the 6th. So Melvin Gordon at the 3-4, that's actually where I took him the last draft. I decided to grab him up there because it sort of seemed unpassable at the 3-4. I've seen him go as late as the 3-8. I'm only looking for a share of him if I get it 3-4 or later. Before that, I'm just not interested in. Definitely would not take him over Kerryon Johnson right now. I really like Kerryon Johnson a lot, so he's one of my more owned people. If you watch Nick's videos, which I'm sure most of you following me do. Oh wow. We're definitely not going to take Aaron Jones here. We're either taking Zach Ertz or Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a guy I have really low ownership on. That's definitely not because I don't like him. He just always goes, in a reasonable spot. So definitely taking Zach Ertz here at 3-9. Love that. Gimme. So that is fantastic. Who else we got out there? At 4-4, I might be looking for another running back. Patrick Mahomes starts to enter the conversation, but since we're kind of looking for Aaron Rodgers and now Carson Wentz with what we have, a little less inclined to take Mahomes. I will still take him if I just straight don't like anything on the board, but I like David Montgomery quite a bit, and I expect that he'll be available. I would take Mahomes over Henry. I would take Mahomes over Cooks and Edelman and Godwin and Woods. So the people I would take over Mahomes on my pick are Diggs, Josh Jacobs, who just went, and David Montgomery. If all those guys go off, then kind of is a harder decision. I'm still pretty comfortable with Julian Edelman. He's supposed to be back for week 1. Cooks is only dealing, that's not an issue for us anymore. Mahomes went 3-12, which is a fine spot for him. I generally try to get him in the 4th, but if I already have Kelsey or Hill, I will grab him at the end of the third and pair with those guys in a stack. We know that stacking raises your winning percentage up to 3%, like 3% better chance of coming in first, up to that. However good your stack is going to affect your percentage more or less. So like a Josh Allen, John Brown stack might only raise you 0.5% or something like that. Whereas like Mahomes, Tyreek Hill might raise you 3%. That's a shame that David Montgomery just went off the board. Not too into taking Derrick Henry here, so we're going to have a pretty hard choice. We might go Godwin here only because I don't like Godwin where he has to get drafted, right? So my ownership on him is like very, very low. Yeah, let's do that. So I don't think that Godwin is the best value pick here, but I don't get to take Godwin very much because of that. So I almost always miss him. The fact that I like nothing on the board is a spot where I'm like, okay, I just want to get an ownership percentage bump then. So I don't want any of the people on the board in this spot. Brandon Cook's probably the best pick there. Hamstring worries me slightly. If there wasn't other factors involved, I would take just Cooks over Godwin. But the fact that my Godwin ownership is extremely, extremely low is what really drove that pick. Plus, in round 5, I really like Sony Michel or Chris Carson that fall at the running back position. Though, not to say we'll 100% get one of the two, but we could get one of the two. So someone has made some picks in this dynasty. This is like the dregs of humanity area. Tyrod Taylor and Mark Walton. Interesting. Not people on my list that I was interested in drafting. I'm going to take Gronk in my next couple picks. I don't think he's coming back, but it's like round 28 of a dynasty league, and it's people that are going to end up getting dropped or somebody that could actually do something for you. So if Gronk comes back, I still don't even think he'll be that good, so he should not even be a consideration in your best ball leagues. But for this dynasty league, I have a little interest in him. A little bit. So anyone with 2 QBs or anything crazy like that going on? No. I'm interested to see if this Pat Mahomes person had someone to stack him with. Eek. I don't like his pick so much when he didn't have a stack target for him. Still decent value there, but really like the value on him more in the 4th round. Likely one of these guys got greedy and should have actually been the person taking him. Yeah. This Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery guy. Like, if he would have just picked Mahomes, left Jacobs, and then got David Montgomery, he'd be in much better shape, in my opinion. So, who am I hoping drops? I'm hoping, Sony Michel would be my choice number 1. Not interested in Howard because I already have a tight end. Not really interested in a quarterback because I'd rather wait and either get Wentz or Aaron Rodgers. Do like Ridley quite a bit. His hammy injury is slightly concerning, but not that concerning. O.J. Howard's another fellow I just don't have that much ownership on. That whole tier 2 of tight ends I am pretty low on. I'm actually starting to climb a bit on them, so the reason why I'm so low on them is I used to pass them a lot because you get the quarterbacks in round 7, and I kind of didn't want to get both. But I'm a little bit more comfortable with that now that there's a lot of guys that I like later. So we're either going to take Lindsay or Michelle if they're on the board. Which one of them will be, so we're going to take Sony. If Sony's on the board, if Sony gets taken, we're taking Lindsey. I'm just going to take Sony. Offense is too much better. And pretty easy pick for us. So we've got, let's go take a look at the team, but we got Chubb and Sony, Devontae Adams, Godwin, and Ertz. Definitely wish Godwin was a better player. We were kind of stuck at that spot and just chose to go with an ownership percentage decision over a actual value decision. Which you got to do if you're playing as many of these as I am. I'm going to have 200 to 300 of these. If you're going to have 50 of these, you don't need to make those considerations. So another thing I want to talk a bit about is your ownership percentages. I don't like to own any guy that you can get in rounds 1, 2, or 3 more than 17%. At that percentage, you're owning 2 shares to the average team's 1, which is plenty enough. And, you know, a certain person that's on a fantasy football podcast, I was talking to him about these things, and one of his favorite value picks back, this is pre-injury, was AJ Green. I asked him how many drafts he did, and he said about 100. And I asked him what his AJ Green ownership percentage was, and he said 57%. And I went, what? You should not have 50%, 7% of anyone, ever. Like, even the late round guys, I cap at 32 to 35%. So, I cap the early round 1 through 3 at 16 or 17%. Then round 4 through 9, I cap around 25%. Oh, that was going to be so tilting if he timed out and took Philip Lindsay. We're going to take Lindsay here. I do realize we want Aaron Rodgers, which is not going to happen this draft for us, and that's okay. I think the value on Lindsay at 6'4" is too good, even in the timeshare with Royce Freeman. We saw Lindsay was the better player last year, and I don't think that Royce Freeman will just like take the role over. I think they're going to split. I think it'll be a more even split this year, but I think Lindsay still has great value at 6'4". Drake in round 6, I don't hate, but I don't understand like how this guy just doesn't ever get to play. Like, there's got to be something wrong with him as a player, because this is multiple coaching staffs now that have basically like thrown Drake away. The new coaching staff is playing Balaj over him. They had Drake returning kicks. That's not what you want from one of your starting running backs. Even if he's a dynamic player that can score on those plays, like, you don't want him out there returning kicks if you value him. So that tells me that they don't value him that high. And that's pretty worrisome for fantasy. So I'm low on Drake. So something to note, we have 2 by week 10 running backs, so that week is shut off for us. I do not draft more than 2 running backs or more than 2 wide receivers with the same bye week. Just causes too many problems later on, and I will actually break tiers for that. Like, I just don't do it. 2 is the most running backs and the most wide receivers all on the same bye week. Like, only 2 running backs with the same, only 2 wide receivers with the same. So that can be up to 4 dudes between the 2, but all at the same, which is quite a bit for your roster to be out, like, 4 guys that week. Then if you're down a tight end that week too, you're getting up to 5 dudes. So you see why you don't want to be going over 2 at those spots. And I don't go over 1 for tight end or quarterback. I only have 1 tight end or quarterback with the same bye week. So pretty much can take anything we want. Probably going to be looking at Wentz pretty hard in round 8 to go with our Ertz. So we'll keep that in mind. Christian Kirk and Pettis being on the board in round 7 is something you do not see often. So those guys should be popping off. Boom, boom. On command, they did pop off. Can we consider a tight end? We can, but I don't really see a reason to. Miles Sanders, we cannot select because of bye week issues. Darrell Henderson is somewhat interesting if he makes it to us this late. We probably might pick here. There's no wide receiver I have to have. I think I'm just going to go to the pure upside of Darrell Henderson if he's not picked. All right, let's do that. Boom. Henderson's a guy I got so much of in the late rounds early on that I don't really have to take him hardly at all anymore. I pretty much am just fading him unless there's a spot that comes up like this where it's like, all right, he's just the best value on the board, so whatever, I'll grab him. But I'm not having to reach for any ownership. It was getting crazy there. People were going for him in the 5th and 6th rounds. I did not do that at all, I don't think. Yeah, I do have some 6th round Henderson. I do not have any 5th round Henderson. But I myself got a little crazed there for a while. All right, so at our next pick, we should be considering Carson Wentz to go with Ertz, but it's definitely not something we have to do. I would not take a running back over Wentz right now because I already have 4. I would take Curtis Samuel over Wentz. Basically, we're either going to be taking Curtis Samuel or Wentz. I don't want Njoku over him. Sammy Watkins is a fine enough pick in the 8th round, but there he goes. It's pretty close for me between Samuel and Watkins. Can't take Miles Sanders or Royce Freeman because we have bye week 10 blocked. So we're still on either Samuel or Wentz. I have Infinity Samuel. He's my 3rd most owned wide receiver behind Mike Williams and Calvin Ridley. So because I have Infinity Samuel, I'm going to take Carson Wentz. It's actually a guy I have kind of a low ownership on. So knowing that we have Wentz and Ertz, I am 100% going to take 3 quarterbacks because Wentz is just a guy I don't trust to stay healthy. And Ertz being a tier 1 quarterback or tight end, obviously he will take a hit if his quarterback is out, but it is not as big as the hit he will take from Wentz being out. Wentz being out hurts Wentz even more than it hurts Ertz. Makes sense. So we have a quarterback, a tight end, 4 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Take a look at the team real quick. See if we got any crazy rosters going on out here. We don't really. Oh, we do actually kind of have one crazy one. 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, don't do this, folks. Just don't take 2 quarterbacks this early. You don't have to. You can get similarly valued quarterbacks to your second quarterback. I like Mayfield a lot, but he's tier 2, and there's a bunch of tier 2 quarterbacks still on. So I would not make this move of grabbing Luck and Mayfield. Luck, injury situation definitely worrying me right now. So we got us pulled up here. We got Wentz and Ertz. We got Chubb, Michelle, Lindsey and Henderson, Devontae Adams, and Chris Godwin. Definitely need help at wide receiver, as we expected we would at this point, but there should be help available. It'd be pretty neat if Deshaun Jackson lasts to us. So we could put a 3-stack together of Wentz, Jackson, and Ertz. There are a couple of people I would take ahead of him, even if he was on the board here, but it's a chance that he and all those people are gone, so we'll see what happens. So Andrew Luck's injury situation. Yeah, he's had a calf strain now for over a month. Still isn't practicing. It's pretty worrisome. A lot of these calf strains and calf injuries lead to torn Achilles from the players, overcompensating with that part of their leg and then ending up with torn Achilles. A lot of them also get misdiagnosed as calf strains where there actually is already damage to the Achilles. And the fact that he is not healing worries me quite a bit. if you already own Luck and you can trade him at his value, then I would recommend doing it. If you already have Luck and people are trying to buy him for nothing because of the scare, then don't sell him. You just got to ride it out and hope that the injury isn't there. But if you can sell him at 100% of his value, like some guy did in my league, it's in a dynasty league. He got Baker Mayfield and like more stuff basically in the deal for Luck, which was absurd. So if you can sell and get like that level, sell. So we're not interested in running back pretty much all right now. We're pretty interested in Courtland Sutton, Larry Fitzgerald, but I'm also very interested in Mark Andrews. So this is quite a difficult pick, actually. We're weak at wide receiver, which makes me want to take a wide receiver, but if we take Mark Andrews, we can just close down tight end and be done with it. I'm actually going to take Courtland Sutton, and I'm going to plan to take TJ Hawkinson a lot later. He goes in around like 13 or 14. I'm pretty comfortable closing out with just Ertz and Hawkinson as my two tight ends, so I'm going to let Mark Andrews go here. Just wanted another guy to shore up. So yeah, when we get back to talking about the bye weeks, we right now have 4 guys. Actually 5 if you count our quarterback on bye week 10. So that is why you don't want to like start just going too wild with multiple guys at multiple positions, having more than 2 of them. There's still a reasonable amount of wide receivers that could drop to us. Obviously, Andrews himself can still drop to us, but I don't think that'll happen. Austin Hooper, not a guy I'm interested in. The quarterbacks on the board, not currently very interested in. Let's take a look real quick again. So Winston, I think, is already off the board. Courtland Sutton, haha. We're not drafting Joe Flacco or Drew Lock. That is not a thing that's going to happen. So we pretty much have like the only stack thing we can get going right now. Might look to do something like Josh Allen and one of his wide receivers later. I really like Josh Allen whenever you're drafting 3 quarterbacks, and we plan to be drafting 3 quarterbacks, so it's nice. Love to see either Larry Fitzgerald or Mark Andrews fall to us. That's vomitous. Don't do it. Don't even know who I'm going to pick if Mark Andrews goes here. Probably going to cry for 15 minutes and then figure it out. Please time out. There's so many times where I'm like, please don't time out. I don't want you to take the top guy. This is one of those things where I'm like, please time out. Please. Oh, wow, that's good for us. So yeah, I considered taking Mark Andrews at our last pick. So we're definitely going to snatch him up here, and we are closing out tight ends. We're not going to take any more. I also like the fact that Mark Andrews opens us up to take Lamar Jackson and have a stack of that going on. Something I'm very interested in. So I think that was a very good 2 picks for us, getting Sutton and Andrews. Definitely need our next wide receiver to be somebody pretty decent, but running back I think is pretty well locked up for us, so it's not something we need to reach for at all. Especially if a lot of my picks I like in round 11, 12 are actually off the board in round 10 this one. So I like Hyde a decent amount there, because there's a chance with what's going on with Damian Williams' hamstring, and then I like Dion Lewis quite a bit in those 11, 12 rounds, but he's off the board as well. I think that those are fine picks. For me, I get my shares of these guys around 11. I don't really find it that difficult to do, so I don't ever really reach for them in round 10, but I'm getting plenty enough of them in round 11. Another guy I really like getting your ownership on right now while it's in round 8 is Darius Geis. So I think the moment, it's not even that I love Geis for this year, it's that I definitely want around 8% of him, right? And because I don't want to get killed if he ends up being amazing, and I'm fine with like not profiting that much if he's great. Like I just want to be around what the field is, but I want to buy my shares in round 8 because I think as soon as preseason games start rolling and you see Darius Geis play a few games, you ain't going to see any more round 8 shares of Darius Geis. That's going to be a thing of the past. He'll be in round 5. He'll be in round 6. You're going to watch your ownership percentage just like plummet into the oblivion. And yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable having like 4% Geis. So I'm actually looking to be at like 10 or 12% Geis before preseason games start. That way, once preseason games start and he jumps into round 6, I can fade him and end up at 8%. So a lot of these guys you have to like play, the game with a bit on your ownership percentage. I bought Darrell Henderson right off the bat. I bought Justice Hill in like rounds 15, 16, 14 right off the bat. I bought a ton of round like 13 and 14 Mark Andrews when these drafts first started. And like then you don't have to reach for them when they get high. Like for me, I'm so high on Mark Andrews that like even in the round he is now, 9, 10, I still like him there. I wouldn't like him any higher than that. Like around 9, 10 is my spot for him, but what are we looking at? Wouldn't hate getting another Kalen Ballage share, but I kind of need wide receiver help more. Think if Lamar Jackson's on the board when we pick, we're just going to take him. I really like having him as part of a 3 QB tandem where you don't have to like pay the price for his bad weeks and you get all of his amazing weeks. So we're going to do that. Pair him with Mark Andrews. And we might even be able to snatch up a Marquise Brown or a Boykin a bit later on. So kind of looking at snatching up a wide receiver with my next pick. Although if Ballage is still there, that's interesting to me. I'm not really looking for more Justice Hill or Ito just because I have so much ownership on those guys. Jalen Samuels would certainly be interesting to me in round 12 as well. So there's a chance that we fade a wide receiver yet again. Especially since right now Anthony Miller is about the list of people that I'm super interested in. I'm not that interested in DK when I don't have Russell Wilson. I do like DK a ton when I have Russell Wilson because of those long touchdown, big weeks. Like, I think any week that DK Metcalf has a good week, Russell Wilson's going to have a fantastic week. So either taking right now Jalen Samuels, Kalen Ballage, or Anthony Miller are the top 3 on the list. Hockenson went round 12. Very good pick for this guy. That's a round earlier than I like, especially at the 12-1. Like, I think that this guy probably could have gotten him at 13. Maybe he saw us in this draft, and I've been slamming Hockenson like mad. But we already have our 2 tight ends, and we're going 3 quarterbacks in this draft, so we would not have been on them. It's between Ballage and Samuels. I'm going to have to take Samuels only for ownership. My ownership on him is very, very low. This is just such a great spot to get him. He's usually gone in like round 10. So we have 5 running backs now, so I'm going to fade running back until my last pick. We won't be taking another running back until our last pick. We won't be taking any quarterbacks, so I'm going to turn those off for the moment. Or I'll just, select only those. All right, so we want quarterback and wide receiver on. This tight end is actually the one shut off. So I'm going to take a running back with my very last pick. Hoping to get like a Darwin Thompson or Dexter Williams. Those are guys that interest me quite a bit. Quadre Allison also interests me. You can occasionally get Malcolm Brown there still. I feel like Went up and then down and then up and then down. And all over the place. There's not any late QB I'm really super interested in. So I might take one out of this group. Still don't pick for like forever, so. Mariota lasts like forever. Dalton lasts a long time. We have no correlations to Rivers or Allen, though Allen's easy to get correlations from, so is Jimmy Garoppolo because of like Debo and Marquise Goodwin going so late. Plus, like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo's ceiling is pretty monstrous. Same with Josh Allen. But both those guys have their own injury problems. I would probably take those two quarterbacks over any of the wide receivers on the board other than Anthony Miller, who I suspect will not be there when we pick. Probably should be gone very soon. Justice Hill. Nice. Rivers off the board. We don't want Rivers. I'd love to see somebody take Brady or some of these Miami receivers. Then we have a better chance of getting the guys we are very, very interested in. So my main picks I'm looking at are Anthony Miller, Josh Allen, Jimmy Garoppolo. After we make our next pick, I'm going to scroll down and check out the teams and see if we have anything funky going on, because there's just some teams sometimes that look pretty weird. Another person we weren't interested in, so that's great. So we are going to get... Oh, no, we're not necessarily. I didn't see that Anthony Miller went. We might get locked out of our picks that we really wanted here. Didn't. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take Garoppolo then. Be all done with the quarterbacks. We still only have 3 wide receivers, so this is quite strange. It's not. So our next 4 picks are going to be wide receivers, and then we're taking a running back with our last pick. We may like abort that with 1 round left, and you know, there's just absolutely no wide receivers we like on the board. So the next round, I am hoping to get one of these Miami guys, a new Gallup, then probably Deshaun Hamilton. Gonna fade Isabella for a bit because I have a ton of ownership on him, and he's showing some sort of mild injury. I could snatch Marquise Brown to go with our Lamar Jackson as well. Kind of depends who's on the board. He falls to round 15 and 16 so often that I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to play the gamble game that I can get like him or Debo or somebody like that. So up at the top of my board right now is Gallup, Stills, Parker, and then Sanu. Then after that, Hamilton, Sanu gone. So if it comes down between Hamilton and Marquise Brown, I'm going to take Brown. If it's the choice is Gallup, Stills, Parker, or Marquise Brown, I'm going to take Gallup, Stills, or Parker. Could be wrong. Could be right to just take the stack guy. It's pretty interesting here. I think I'm going to get a chance to take a stacked piece no matter what next round, so I think I'm just going to take one of the guys I like more here. I'm going to take Gallup. I think he's been the best guy on the board for a bit. So we got him locked up. So yeah, it's not like, I think even if Marquise Brown goes, that like either good Marquise Goodwin or Debo will be there, so it's not like we just get locked out of picking a stack piece with our next pick. So that's what led me to just take the best player on the board, I think, which was Gallup. Stills and Parker I like quite a bit too. Jack Doyle. Not super into him. So one thing I've noticed that I've gotten into in these last bit of drafts, and I've been liking my teams a lot more, is I'm not waiting on quarterback and tight end so much. So you're drafting 7 wide receivers and 6 running backs. It matters a little bit less that the guys on the end of your bench are poor, or just have a high range of outcomes, because if you get screwed, there's still so many other guys to fill in the spots. But if you only have 2 tight ends, you don't really want to be taking a big risk on one. That's why I'm so high on Hockenson at the moment. So every time I want to only take 2 tight ends, I'm looking for either Hockenson because he's so late for how safe I feel he is. I know he's a rookie, but I just feel he's safe anyway. Or Mark Andrews, but now that you have to take him earlier, it kind of sucks. My Mark Andrews ownership percentage must be ludicrous. I just, if it's going to get up to 40%, I'm probably just going to have to be okay with that. Just because I like him that much. Let's take a look. Mark Andrews' ownership percentage is 33%. It's not as absurd as I thought. I thought we might be getting up near 40, but not quite there yet. I think Justice Hill is right in that range too. He's going to be a hard fade for me for a while. I think I overrated him for a bit. I still like him quite a bit. He's on my dynasty team, but for redraft, I don't like him as much. Yeah, he's 34%. So I think we're just not going to be taking Justice Hill for our next whole bunch of drafts. Kerryon Johnson, we own at 14%. So I'm looking to get him up to the max at 17. Rashad Penny is at 13%, especially with him going so late now. I'm not definitely looking to max him at 17. So, I think the fact that he's available later is kind of absurd because, nothing changed. They said that Chris Carson was doing better than him and was going to be the 1A, but when I was drafting Rashad Penny late round 6, I assumed that Carson would be 1A, and that there was just going to be plenty of work with Mike Davis out of the picture for both of them. Good win out. So we're either going to take Marquise Brown or Debo. We'll just take Marquise Brown first. So by week 8 is now locked out for us as far as wide receivers go because we have 2 guys there. The last 2 we picked, Gallup and Brown. So we will not be selecting any more people with that bye week. My next pick, I'm pretty interested in Deshaun Hamilton or Debo. Both of them might go down to Zay Jones. But I've been trying to take in round 17 and 18 only. I think Zay Jones is awesome value in those rounds. Bob Foster's not running with the first team. He seems to be the odd man out. Zay Jones finished last season with targets of 9, 9, 6, 9, and 9 in his last 5 games. He had 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games. He had 102 targets last year, and I think their offense will grow a bit. Plus, Josh Allen wasn't there for part of that. He was hurt. They went with Matt Barkley. So I think that Zay Jones can grow from his 102 targets. Most people are pooping their pants because they say, they got John Brown and they got Cole Beasley. How can his targets stay the same? But, I don't see John Brown's role being any different than what Bob Foster's was. John Brown has never been a high target guy, so he doesn't concern me that much. I think Cole Beasley is, absolute dust. I think he's just not an NFL player anymore. So I don't really think he's going to command that high of a target share. Might he get some? Yes, but Josh Allen's mostly going to be running in the spots where he would be throwing to the slot receiver. You really want the outside guys, and Zay Jones, I think, will benefit the most. So it's a virtual tie between Sean Hamilton and Debo for me. So if it gets to my pick and both are on the board, I'm going to take Debo just because I have Garoppolo. And, if this guy takes Debo, I'll take Deshaun. David Moore's pretty interesting. DK Metcalf suffered an injury. I'm interested to see who runs with the ones now that DK might be out for a couple practices. So I don't think Seattle really wanted to show their hand on who had that number 3 receiver job, but now we're going to actually get to find out if it's David Moore or not. So, all right. Deshaun and Debo. Strictly taking Debo because of the stack. This is a tie for me. Got 2 picks left. I would love for Zay Jones to be on the board when I pick again and then take a running back, but we'll see if that happens. Kind of other injury news is out there. Got Aaron Jones is got a slight hammy strain, but it's not one I'm super concerned about. Same pretty much with Brandon Cooks, very slight. Those are not the ones that I'm not worried about, but those guys still got to get rest, or else they can re-injure it and make it a not so little hammy strain. So we'll see how those things go. So late tight ends, I'm not liking late tight ends so much anymore. I liked Waller a lot when you could get him in round like 17. You still can get Dissly in 17 and 18, and by the way, Dissly is not 100% to not play this week, so the fact that he's even being considered to play in the preseason this early is fantastic news for him. Like, with his knee injury, was devastating. It did happen early, but from what I've read, he's rehabbed like super hard, and a guy of his, Zay Jones is not, so that's kind of stinks. The guy of his talent level just like really shouldn't go undrafted in these drafts. Dissly is probably my favorite round, 17, 18 tight end. There's no guarantees with him, but there really isn't for anybody you're taking in round 17 or 18. Let's take a look at their running backs. See if there's anyone that like really stands out. If Darwin Thompson is on the board, I'm going to take him probably. Ooh, Malcolm Brown is on the board as well. I'm not going to take Malcolm Brown in this one because we took Darrell Henderson. I don't like owning both because they're kind of going to hurt each other if Gurley is out. So I'm more into Darwin Thompson. Quite a bit into Darwin Thompson right now. I think he could rise up that depth chart. I think he's going to have a role no matter what, like the old Chart West role. And if things go right for him, he have quite the ceiling in that Chiefs offense. So he might go before a pick, who knows. But right now, my target is Darwin Thompson. Some consideration to David Moore. Callaway is currently off my draft board because I guess he showed up to camp out of shape again. And is getting completely outplayed by Rashard Higgins, and starting to sound like the reports that were coming out about Donta Foreman, where the team's getting to be close to done with Callaway. Remember last year he got caught with weed in his car, and then claimed it was left in the rental car from the previous people. Sure, buddy, believe that one. And of course, Hugh Jackson just was like, okay. Hugh Jackson was the worst coach ever. One of my greatest things I did last year for people was talk every single person that was going to bet on the Browns making the playoffs out of the Browns making the playoffs. Realized they came super, super close, so it was close on my part. But the reason why I told them was just wait, because Hugh Jackson is an abomination as a coach. You do not want any part of relying on him or his teams. Ooh, Tony Pollard. Nice. That is not the Williams you want to take there. I would have liked this pick if it was Dexter Williams, not so much Jamal Williams. I think Jamal Williams is going to get pushed down to the 3 in Green Bay. He just doesn't do anything well enough. And I know we've had those fantasy games for him where you're like, dude, he's had RB1 fantasy weeks in the recent past. How could he possibly lose his number 2 job? That doesn't make sense. Well, he just his games were good for fantasy, but they weren't good for real life. He got some touchdowns, which were nice, but he was mostly grinding out, short yardage runs, and he does okay as a receiver. but he's not as good of a receiver as Aaron Jones. And now you got Dexter Williams coming in, who's fantastic between the tackles. So, well, we're down to just wide receiver now. So that's what I was saying. I might click on the running back in the 17th round just because I might not like the wide receivers on the board. It kind of sucks that we're blocked out of taking Boykin here because you don't get much of him in round 18 anymore. I like him quite a bit. I would be pretty excited to get a David Moore in the last round. I don't hate John Ross. I kind of like A.J. Brown still, but he's falling due to injury. Hakeem Butler's pretty interesting, and DJ Chark's pretty interesting down there. Also, Deontay Johnson from the Steelers is a guy that you should maybe be trying to get a couple percentage points on, but not very high. Dude, there's been some horrific tight ends taken in this draft. So, don't take Jesse James. Take Will Dissly. And don't take Jeff Swain. Take Will Dissly. I have actually taken Jeff Swain, but it's because Will Dissly was gone. And I was in a pinch in round 18. And he was the only tight end where I was like, well, he's probably a starter. So I'm going to take David Moore here if he's not taken. If he gets taken, we don't have to think. Really don't want any part of Callaway right now. I think that there's a chance that he's ends up on a different team. Ooh. Maurice Harris, I have been hearing all the things at camp, but I'm still just not that into it. So that's going to finish up our team. So let's look and see if anyone's got any super bad roster constructions. So yes, it's 4 tight ends. You don't want this. Don't ever take 4 QBs or 4 tight ends. I know there's a few articles out there that are older that say that this is okay. It's so bad. So we broke down the percentage points, and the winning percentage for people with 4 quarterbacks or 4 tight ends was under 3%. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So don't ever take 4 tight ends. Don't ever take 4 quarterbacks. You really want 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers. Gives you a massive percentage boost. It doesn't look like that many people in our draft have drafted optimally. I wouldn't say correctly, but I would say optimally is the word I use for this. So this guy has an optimal roster construction. So that's 1 person. Nope. 2 people, but that's me. Nope. Can't. Yep. So 3 people in this entire draft drafted the optimal roster construction of 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers, and then 3 quarterbacks, or 2 or 3 quarterbacks and 2 or 3 tight ends. Let's break down our team, give it a rating, and we'll get out of here. So we got Carson Wentz, Lamar Jackson, and Jimmy Garoppolo. It's close to an A. I feel like I'd be overrating myself maybe if I gave it an A. So let's say B+. I really like that group of 3. Wentz, Lamar Jackson, and Garoppolo. So we'll give it a B+. Chubb, Sony Michel, Lindsey, Darrell Henderson, Jalen Samuels, and Darwin Thompson. We don't have a for sure. I'm really high on Chubb. He's my RB6 in my rankings for best ball. I mean, we do have some question marks here, so I'll give it a B+ again. Then at wide receiver, we've got Adams, Godwin, Sutton, Gallup, Marquise Brown, Deebo Samuel, and David Moore. I think it's a pretty solid B, which, maybe a B+ again. It's probably a B, but the fact that we have correlations for Marquise Brown and Deebo Samuel, I think pushes it to a B+. And then at tight end, we have Zach Ertz and Mark Andrews. That's an A. Anytime you have a tier 1 tight end, Mark Andrews, you just auto get an A from me. If you have a tier 1 tight end and Hawkinson, you're still getting an A from me. So Hawkinson and Andrews are my favorite guys to target with a tier 1 tight end. So I feel like you've just locked tight end up. You can take all the chances and all the risk at quarterback with the ceilings. Smash. So I like this team quite a bit. Yep, so I'd say B+. I'll give running back a B, and then an A at tight end. So pretty solid team. 100% should make the money. Will it win the league? Probably need Chubb and Michel to hit ceiling. If Chubb and Michel hit ceiling, this team wins the league. I'm almost for sure. If one of Lindsay or Henderson hits ceiling and one of these guys craps out, but the other guy hits ceiling, we probably win the league. Jalen Samuels, obviously, if he hits ceiling, we are in good shape. But anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck in your drafts. In the description for this video, there'll be a link to the wide receiver article. There will be a link to my Instagram, which is only pictures of best ball drafts, all bunch of rosters I drafted, and there will be a link to my Twitter. If you want to ask any questions about best ball, if you want to show me some rosters, any of that kind of stuff, feel free to hit up my Twitter, which will be in the description. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.